Welcome to 15-Minute Mentorship. I'm Russ Broomell. Clearly, good mentorship takes longer than 15 minutes, but my aim with this podcast is to pass along things I've learned, things I'd talk about with you if I was your mentor and we were talking over coffee. So grab a coffee. Let's dig in. Let me share a personal story as we start. I made my fair share of bad purchasing decisions, if you want to say that. I've been awful with money. I've bought things on impulse. I've juggled debt from card to card to card. I've taken on more than I could handle. I faced emergencies without an emergency fund. These choices that I made, right? They led to a significant amount of debt, which in turn limited my future choices. At times I couldn't choose where to live because I had to find a place that fit my tight budget. I had to take jobs that I wasn't that passionate about simply because they paid the right amount. My debt controlled many aspects of my life, and it wasn't until I made a conscious decision to tackle it head on that I began to see a light at the end of that tunnel. Some quick stats before we begin. The average American owes more than $95,000, but makes less than $70,000. So on average, we owe more than a year's income to creditors. One survey reported that on average, people pay 29% of their take-home pay on debt payments. They give away about 2%. If those stats or my story describes you, stay tuned. I have some suggestions for you. If you're just starting out and debt isn't an issue, or you think the numbers I just mentioned are nuts, well, I want to talk to you first. May you never have the problems that many of the rest of us face. First up, my advice is for you to be as debt-free as you possibly can. Let me state that unequivocally. If you can do it without debt, do it without debt. The best way to deal with debt is to avoid it in the first place. I know. Sometimes it's just not possible. Life happens, Sometimes you need to take on debt. But a good rule of thumb is to live below your means for a long time. That means spending less than you earn. Sounds simple, right? If you're committed to remaining debt-free or debt-light, maybe if you prefer, then you need to make the hard choices day by day, week by week. You need to know what's coming in. You need to know what's going out. Some financials advisors say things like, make sure every dollar has a plan before you receive it, or put a name on every dollar before it gets spent. Okay. Simply put, you need a budget. I know the B word, I get it. But pro tip, it doesn't need to be a multi-spreadsheet work of accounting art, unless that's something you love to do. My best budgets have been on a notepad, written in pencil, with circles and lines across them. So, number one, let's make a money plan. List all the bills and expenses, even the little stuff like I felt like stopping for a coffee. List all the income, even the little stuff like I'm selling my drawings on Etsy. My preference is just to list your after-tax pay. You don't need to list all the taxes and stuff, but also list how much you're saving and what it's for. List how much you're giving away and what that's for. Make sure you're planning for future expenses too, like changing your car's oil in a few months or that winter trip to that coffee plantation in Colombia. Yeah, remember, you need an emergency fund too. Having a cushion for unexpected expenses can help you avoid going into debt when life throws you a curveball. Emergency funds are your best friend. Aim to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. It can be a lifesaver if you face unexpected expenses or a job loss. Feels like a lot, but it's what you need. Make sure that there's something being set aside for a rainy day. Seriously, in every money plan, every week, every month. So now you've got the numbers. Go ahead, add up all the pluses, subtract all the minuses, the number at the bottom of the column. After all the pluses are added in and all the minuses are taken out, it has to be bigger than zero because that's your margin forever. I feel like I've won if that number is over $1,000, but 1 or 10 or 100 is good. It can't be a minus. You need a margin. And if it's close to zero or if it's a negative, You need either to add more pluses or remove some of the minuses. Simple. But it's tough. You got some time to drive Uber? Maybe. Maybe you can mow some lawns or pick up a second job. Do you really need to go out to dinner? Maybe touring regional coffee roasteries and coffee shops is more affordable than flying to South America for that vacation? Make your plan. Make your plan and stick to it. Stick to it. It's amazing how easy it is to fall into the trap of, oh, just this once, or, and I've said it myself. It's been a hard week, a nice dinner, a bottle of wine. Yeah, let's relax. We've earned it. So what if it's not in our plan? It's just this once. Poison. We both know it's not just this once. It's a failure to plan. You're borrowing from your future self. It's not a stretch to get into the just once habit all the time. Like, a lot of people allow their choices to run up their debt and force them to live paycheck to paycheck. Again, stats like surveys show somewhere between 55 and 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's brutal. Little by little, it all adds up. So that's your budget. That's your money plan. That's crucial if you want to remain debt-free or if you want to get out of the debt hole that you're in. And remember, my first rule was to be debt-free if you possibly can. But sometimes we all know this is 100% true. Sometimes you just need to take on some debt. I mean, really need, not just want. So let's talk about that. Think about it as responsible debt. Not all debt is horrible, terrible, no good, very bad debt. Some debt can serve as an investment in your future, like a mortgage or a student loan. But even those need to be managed very carefully. Rule number 2, if you have to take on debt, be responsible about it. Here's a couple of examples, right? If you're going to school or going back to school or sending your kids to school, that's expensive. And just like normal, you need a money plan. You need a budget. How much is the school? What about books? How about housing, meals or a meal plan, supplies, parking, gas, extra coffee for late night studying? How much you have in hand today? That matters too. What other income is there you can get to pay for it? Do you really need to go to that school? What's the chance of graduating? What are the salaries for graduates with the GPA that you expect? Be real. Do the hard math. Does it make sense to spend $250,000 on an education where the average salary is $40,000 a year? Is there a school where you can spend less or a job where you can earn more? It's a plan. Make a plan. Now, if you're in the financial situation to pay $250,000 cash to go to that school and you want to go to it, then go for it. That's up to you, right? But if you do the math and it's not mathing, you need to keep looking and thinking before you sign up. Find scholarships. Talk to the financial aid people about how to make college or grad school more affordable. Find more scholarships, right? Is there work study? Are there some new rocks under which you might find some more scholarships? What about going to school part-time while you work part-time and pay as you go? There's always options. Buying a home is an expensive proposition as well. And you need to ask some of the same sorts of questions. You need the same sort of money plan, frankly. What's it really going to cost? What about broker's fees, homeowners associations, closing costs, property taxes, remodeling, a new roof, plumbing, wiring, the water heater, the air conditioner is kind of old. There's a ton of costs that you need to plan. Get them all on paper. You need to take a hard look at the pluses as well. How much do you have for a down payment? How much does grandma want to chip in and help you buy your first house? Because, you always have coffee with her every Sunday. And she loves you, doesn't she? How long are you willing to save up? Are housing prices going up or down or staying the same? How about a neighborhood or town where you'd like to live, but maybe is not so expensive? Are houses going up in price or down in price in the next neighborhood over? And speaking of that, how is your commute going to change? What about insurance for the house? Will your car insurance change if you change your address? Get all the facts, write it all down. And now it's time to start shopping for debt. Quite often you'll have options. Beware if your real estate agent wants to help you get a mortgage. Proceed with caution when your college wants to help you get a loan. They have incentives in that situation, and their incentive is to get you signed up, not to find you the best possible deal that's going to work for you long term. That is up to you. Take your responsibility seriously. As if you're looking to take on debts, have a plan for paying them off. Know what you owe. What are the interest rates? How are those interest rates going to change over time, or will they? What do your monthly payments look like now, and what do they look like in the future? Think long and hard about that house or that school or that car. Do you need to spend this much? Is there another way to pay for it without debt, or maybe with less debt? Okay. You've made your decision. You have debt. So rule 1 was no debt if at all possible. Rule 2 was if you have to take on debt, be responsible about it. Rule 3, simply pay off your debt as quickly as you possibly can. Period. By the way, if you thought, duh, or I wish I'd heard that a decade ago to that last part, this part is especially for you. It's for me too. Pay off your debt as quickly as you possibly can. And we're back to that money plan, that B word, the budget. Get debt payments into your budget from day one, not from the day that they say you owe your first payment, but the day that you take on the debt. Pay as much as you can, as often as you can. All the other rules apply too, right? Find more pluses, remove some of the minuses in your money plan. Automate your payments whenever possible so you don't just forget or go, ooh, let's go to dinner instead of making that payment. Here's a nugget I found useful. Prioritize higher interest debts. Credit card debt can spiral out of control quickly because of the high interest rates. Focus on paying it off first. If you have multiple debts, consider what they call the avalanche method, paying off debts from the highest to the lowest interest rate, or what some people call a snowball method. You pay off the smallest debt first and then the next bigger up the line. Either way, you build momentum as you pay off the debts, right? If you're paying $100 on each of 2 debts and you pay number 1 off, you take that $100 and add it to the other $100 you're already paying on debt number 2. There you go. You'll be paying them off faster and faster and faster as you go. Remember, the plan here is to pay as much as you can, as often as you can. Maybe you can take on a side gig and pay all of that income towards your debts. Maybe you can turn off some subscriptions and apply that money to your debts. Maybe you tell friends to give you cash for your birthday. I don't know. Apply that to your debts. Anything, right? There's no one size fits all answer here. The key is to find something that works for you and stick to it. Quick reminder, rule 1, no debt if it's at all possible. Rule number 2, okay, if you have to take on debt, be responsible about it. And rule 3, pay off your debt as quickly as you possibly can. But you're already in debt and you're feeling overwhelmed. And I've promised that I have something special for you too, if you stuck around. So listen up. First, don't panic. You're not alone. There is a way out. Start by getting a clear picture of your financial situation. List all your debts, including the interest rates, including the minimum payments, all the details. It can be scary, but it's a crucial first step. Be honest. Get it all down on paper. Once you know what you're dealing with, we're going to go back to make that money plan, the B word, right? Need to rewind and listen to that bit again? Go ahead. I'll wait. Okay, here's a mindset that I've learned the hard way. Having debt means that I got some benefit that I didn't earn. I had an emergency, but I hadn't saved up a big enough emergency fund. I bought a car or a house or a college education without having all the money I needed saved up beforehand, right? I got indulgent and I traveled or I bought dinner or whatever when I didn't have the money in the bank. That's a problem. I need to own that. You need to own it. We need to acknowledge it, own it, internalize it. There comes a time when we need to pay the piper, as they say. And that's okay. Remember back on those great times we had with that money, or even celebrate our lack of prior planning. What? Celebrate? Yes, celebrate. You learned a lesson that didn't kill you. That's a win. Celebrate it. You're smarter than you were. You now know some new things. You've earned that knowledge. Now apply it. Make a money plan. Begin to make a molehill out of that mountain of debt. You can do it. Absolutely. Along the way, here's something important. Celebrate your wins. Every time you pay off a debt or even you make a significant payment, take a moment to celebrate. Don't go shopping, but celebrate. It's a big deal. You deserve to acknowledge your progress. Just be careful when you celebrate. Here's another piece of advice. Consider talking to a financial advisor. I'm not one, right? We're just here chatting over coffee because, we need to do that. A financial advisor can help you create a strong plan. They can offer you strategies you might not have thought of. There are nonprofit agencies that can help you for free or at a low cost. Plenty of churches, community organizations. They can help. They can help you get real with your finances, and they can encourage you as you get back on track and make progress. Just be careful that their incentives and yours align. Community and support are crucial. Talk to your friends, your family about your financial goals. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to offer advice, support, or even join you in your debt-free journey. There's online communities. There's all kinds of resources that can provide encouragement along the way and practical tips. Before we go, let me tackle the idea that debt is just a part of life. Yes, many people live with debt, but that doesn't mean that you have to. In the 1920s, the average mortgage was less than half the value of the house, and mortgage terms were usually only about 5 years long. Lots of people paid off their homes before they moved. Today, it's most common to have to secure a mortgage as part of buying a house because you've got to pay off the last one. And you're going to take 20 or 30 years to pay it off, and you're going to finance 80 or 95% or even more of the purchase price. Some people, even today, buy a house for cash because they have the money put away. Last year, I bought a car for cash by trading in my old car and having saved up to pay the difference. I can tell you that not having a car payment is a great feeling as you drive that car. Imagine the freedom of living without monthly debt payments hanging over your head. I'm imagining it right now, and I'm working toward it. It's possible. It requires a mindset shift. Debt is not a part of life. It's a tool to be used sparingly, only when you really need it, and then with great caution. Also, please remember this. Debt is borrowing from your future self. Every dollar you borrow today is a dollar plus interest that future you will have to pay back tomorrow. Think about your future self. Do you want to burden you with debt, or do you want to set you up for success? So, what did we learn today? Rule 1, no debt if at all possible. Live on less than you take home. Have a money plan, the B word, that gives every dollar a home. Plan out all your expenses, including what you need for the future, including an emergency fund. You can do it. Rule 2, if you have to take on debt, be responsible about it. Think clearly and carefully when you're thinking about college or a car or buying a new home. Don't be overly optimistic. Don't let other people do the work for you. You'll be paying the bills for years to come. So you need to make smart, informed, responsible choices. Rule 3, pay off your debt as quickly as you possibly can. If you're in debt up to your eyeballs, don't panic. Create that money plan. Seek advice. Celebrate your progress. Bonus idea. Debt doesn't have to be a part of life. By thinking about your future self and saving for emergencies, you can be financially free. Let me leave you with this thought, an ancient Hebrew proverb. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. That is in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 7. Thinking about debt, think about it from this ancient perspective. When somebody tells you debt is no big deal, you can get what you want now and pay nothing for 12 months. Ooh. Remember, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Lenders make profit by lending you money. Sellers make more sales by convincing you to get it now, even if you don't have the money set aside. But your future self will be handcuffed with that debt, and you'll be a slave to the lender. They'll want their money back and more. So, no debt if at all possible, rule 1. If you have to take on debt, be responsible about it. That's rule 2. And if you get into debt, pay it off as quickly as you possibly can. That's rule number 3. Debt does not have to be a part of your life. Make sure that love is. Thanks for tuning in and for giving your precious attention to me. In your podcast player or on YouTube or wherever you found this, share your thoughts, share your experiences, or even suggest something for a future episode. I appreciate when you give your feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Now, how about this? Invite a friend out for coffee. Talk about this episode. Tell your barista about it too. Post about it on social media. Share a link to this episode. Encourage somebody to go on this journey with all of us. Check out 15mentor.com, 15mentor.com for more ways to connect. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.